Hi, I'm Daphne and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a weekly reading vlog. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, and if you're not already, subscribe down below and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified every time I post. You can also find me on Instagram at Daphne Ginn, so check me out there as well because that's where I'm the most active. Okay, so for this week, right now it's Monday, September 28th. For this week, I'm gonna be continuing reading The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed. This is a young adult book. I really like the premise of this story. I'm finding out more and more about myself that I don't love young adult. Just the way the character speaks, it's from first person perspective. It's obviously like a teenager, and I find that a little annoying personally as an almost 26-year-old adult, and I know there are plenty of adults that like young adult, but I don't know if it's for me, but I definitely still want to finish it. I really like the plot of this story. So the premise of the story is about this teenage black girl in LA in 1992. Her name's Ashley, and it's her life when the riots started in LA after the LAPD beat this man, Rodney King, half to death, and the police officers were acquitted. So it's her life while that's happening. However, the thing that I think that's really interesting about this book that I didn't realize going in is that Ashley's quite privileged. She goes to basically a private school that's mostly white kids, and then the few black kids that also go to the school are typically on scholarship for sports and things like that. So when she interacts with students in her school, it's mostly white people, and she's not really a part of the group with the other black kids in school at the point that I'm up to in the book. And her sister is older than her. She's like college age, but her sister's dropped out of college and is really passionate about the riots and protesting, and she self-proclaims herself as communist and things like that. So I'm enjoying it for the most part, minus like the fact that it's YA. But I still want to finish it, so I'm gonna be reading this week. Sorry, I had to put you down because my arm was tired holding you up. But the next book that I'm gonna read, I just started reading a few pages of this last night, and it's Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. This was originally written in Swedish, I believe, which I think is interesting, and I'm liking it so far. I've seen online that some people thought it was a little boring, but I mean, I'll find out for myself. But just to start off, the way that it's written is pretty interesting. It's like the narrator is almost like its own character. Like, it's not spoken in first person, but he'll say things like, in this one chapter that's super short, he's like, 10 years ago, a man was standing on a bridge. The story isn't about that man, so you don't really need to think about him right now. Well, obviously you can't help thinking about him. It's like saying, don't think about cookies, and now you're thinking about cookies. Like, it's kind of written like this, which is really unique. I haven't really read anything recently where the narrator was so colorful like this. But the premise of this story is that there's this man that tries to rob a bank, and he fails, and he's trying to run away and ends up running into an open house for an apartment, and there's 7 prospective buyers and the real estate agent in there, and it's all about their individual stories in this like crazy weird hostage situation. So I'm gonna read this as well. I think it'll be a nice break to kind of switch between the two books, so like something YA and then take a break from YA and read an adult book. So yeah, I'm just gonna vlog my week besides just the reading. Obviously this is more casual, so my hair's messy, so if you don't like that, I'm sorry. But yeah, so far today I've had a pretty interesting and productive day. My friend Brooke, who I haven't seen in a few years, we played basketball together in college, texted me yesterday while I was out roller skating on Washington Street that she was gonna be in town. So she asked if I wanted to get lunch, and I was like, sure, of course, I haven't seen you in forever. So we did that, and we went out to our favorite Indian restaurant. I've literally been there 3 times this month, which is a lot. Usually I'll do like 2 times, but I also already had it with another group of friends 2 days ago. But yeah, besides my normal work, I've been really productive. I built this project plan because I was having a project plan meeting with my manager, and she was like, yeah, like you can really use it in your personal life. And I was like, I've been thinking about doing some kind of project planning for my YouTube stuff. I didn't tell her this, but I was just like thinking it. Yeah, so I built this. So I started building this schedule of like videos that I'm thinking about doing when they have to get done. but it's almost 7 and I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm gonna do that now. And then I'll get back to probably working on this just because I'm in a really productive mood. And then read some more later tonight. I typically like to read before bed. Hey again. I'm just chilling in the living room. I got off a Zoom call with my girlfriends. I don't know why I talk like that. I got off a Zoom call with my friends from college, and we're all planning to go to California to celebrate my other friend, Ruth's wedding. So originally I was a little hesitant to go. You know, obviously it's COVID. I'm not really sure what the future holds, but this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it looks like it's well planned out and we're gonna stick together as a group. I was really worried that we were gonna kind of split up and people are gonna do their own things, but if we're staying together, I'm more comfortable, so I'm really excited and go on this really fun trip with my friends and celebrate Ruth and her new husband, and I'm so excited. So it's later in the night. I've read for a bit. I read about 50 pages of The Black Kids. My thoughts on the book so far is that it's okay. Sometimes it's a little more focused on like the typical high school experience than I'm interested in reading about. Like they're at prom and things like that. Drinking, her friends are doing drugs and stuff like that, which I'm not a fan of. But it's starting to pick up. She isn't a perfect character either, the main character, this girl Ashley. She's been having inappropriate moments with her friend's boyfriend, and he like clearly likes her and stuff, but he doesn't want to leave his girlfriend, but he'll like want to spend time alone with Ashley, and they hooked up and things like that. And at prom he thinks it's a good time now to confess to his girlfriend that that's what's been happening. So the best friend confronts her and pushes her into the hotel pool where the prom is being held and calls her the N-word, which literally had my jaw dropped. So that's effed. And now she's left the prom with one of the few black kids that is like friendly with her. Like I wouldn't say she's friends with any of the black kids at school, but this guy seems to have like maybe a crush on her or something. She's with him now, and he's just like, I just want to be home, because he knows that the riots are going on so close to his family's house, and he feels kind of ridiculous that he's at prom when there's more important things to be dealing with. So she takes her friend's car, this other friend, and drives him back downtown, and they're about to go to his house in the heat of all the chaos, which is what I'm interested to read about. I want to know more about that aspect of the story and like the riots and the mistreatment and the prejudice versus all the high school BS. But it's YA. Okay, I'm back from my run. As you saw, I wanted to run about 3 miles, which I was able to do, but I definitely did not drink enough water before I headed out, which I knew. So I was feeling a bit faint. So after I hit 3.1, I decided it was good enough and I didn't need to push myself too hard and pass out in the middle of the street. It's about 9 in the morning now, so I'm signed in on my work laptop and I'm gonna get started with my day. I will update you on some of the content I read in the Black Kids book last night. Some crazy stuff happened. Sorry if this is a weird angle. I wanted to update you on where I'm at with reading the Black Kids. I'm not sure if I want to give you a spoiler information or if I just want to give you a basis overall of my thoughts. But basically, I'll try not to give too much of the plot away. But there have been a couple incidents in the book where people in Ashley's family, including herself, have been threatened with guns, and it's quite terrifying because there's no reason for that. It really emphasizes the fact that back then in the 90s, and obviously still today in 2020, and I'm sure will continue for much longer than it should, but that Black people in America too often are treated as criminals just based on racial bias and just no good reason besides the way that Black people look. It doesn't matter if you are educated, it doesn't matter if you have money, it doesn't matter if you're poor, it doesn't matter if you did or didn't do something wrong. Your life seems to be more at risk. So that's been going on, and our main character really felt that personally for the first time, like she'd seen it on the news and things like that, and she had past history with people saying the N-word to her growing up here and there, and like learning about these biases and what those things mean and how people judge her in society and things like that. But yeah, I can also kind of relate to this girl because I'm not rich or anything, but I would say I'm like probably upper middle class. I didn't grow up in the Black community. I grew up in a fairly diverse town, mostly white for sure. Went to a public school, but in 2020 I kind of had a bit of an identity crisis with all this resurgence of Black Lives Matter online and people really paying attention, because I want to make sure I'm saying this true to myself and not feel self-conscious about saying this because the camera's on. I kind of felt like I was an outcast when it came to being a part of Black Lives Matter because I didn't grow up in the community. Like, obviously I totally wholeheartedly believe Black Lives Matter, and I'm wholeheartedly in support of changing the social injustices and how the whole system is kind of built around racism. Like, that's not cool with me. That makes me very upset, and seeing innocent people being killed and mistreated and treated less than because they're Black has really rattled me. But what really like rattled me was realizing that Martin Luther King was killed when my parents were like still alive. They were young toddlers, but like they were alive when Martin Luther King was killed. And that just blew my fucking mind, because that's not that fucking long ago. And I talk about this with my boyfriend a lot too, things like this, because, you know, you've met him, he's also Black. And people all the time, it feels like, say, oh, slavery was such a long time ago, oh, racism was such a long time ago, people aren't racist anymore, just get over it, things like that. And I'm like, it wasn't a long time ago. My mother and father were alive when Martin Luther King was killed. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is still in the modern age. So shit like that, I was like, because when you're taught that in school, they kind of address it as if it's like long ago history, you know? Like, not ancient history, but so far removed from the present time. You know, that was another time. But really, it's not. That's not true. It doesn't feel that way anymore. So shit like that is what irks me, and that's why I wanted to pick up more literature speaking about these types of topics, so I can kind of get a better overall view of the Black community and how that affects people today and how it affected people before I was alive. I'm going to continue to educate myself because I don't know everything, and I also want to be better able to have concise and to the point and like fact-checked points to have discussions with people who are less informed, you know? Like, if I have a friend who isn't Black and wants to have a conversation with me about Black Lives Matter, you know, they care to a degree, but they just don't fully understand, or they say things like Blue Lives Matter or All Lives Matter, and to me, like, I want to have those conversations back and I want to understand why they say those things, but right now I'm like, how can people say all lives matter but at the same time not be able to say Black Lives Matter? Like, if you can't say Black Lives Matter, then you don't truly believe all lives matter. And Black Lives Matter doesn't mean Black lives only matter, obviously. And blue lives, the argument that a lot of Black Lives Matter supporters will say, and, you know, I'm open to a conversation about it, but like, it's not really such thing as a blue life. You can take off your uniform at the end of the day and just be a person again, a normal person. Whereas a Black person is Black 24/7 for their entire life. And they're judged for it. You can be judged as an officer, but you don't have to be an officer if you don't want to be an officer. That's a life you chose. You don't choose to be Black. So, yeah, so this was a really personal conversation. I might not say everything perfectly. I might, you know, look at the edit and wish I had said it a little bit differently here or there, but I'm also only a human, and fortunately, I'm not like super personally hurt like some other people in this country have been, but at the same time, it could so easily have been me, you know, and it could so easily be somebody else that is close to me that I love. Sorry for the heavy topic, but at the same time, I'm not sorry, because I'm allowed to express how I feel about something. That's this important. I finished watching the presidential debate, and I'm just feeling shitty. Good morning, it's Wednesday. I'm sitting here at my desk. I'm logged on and everything, but the Book of the Month books have just come out, and well, they came out this morning, and I've been looking at them before I signed on, and I don't know what to pick. I'm interested in 2 books. Originally going into October, I kind of wanted to pick something creepy, but like, I'm just so scared of picking a thriller or a horror book. But one of the books I do have in mind to pick is in the list that's considered like creepy, so maybe that'll do for like an October kind of mood. So here are the selections for October. This is the first book I'm considering, Magic Lessons. Apparently it's the prequel of Practical Magic, which I haven't read, but apparently it's a standalone and you don't need to read the other 2 books. These are like the good to know things about it. And then I'm also interested in the new B.E. Schwab book. So I'm stuck in between Magic Lessons and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Okay, so as soon as I got off with you, I made my decision and I ended up getting both. I picked Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by B.E. Schwab. I'm excited to read the B.E. Schwab book because she's talked about all the time and I've never read any of her books, so I'm excited. Shoot. I hope they come in time because I'm leaving for my parents on Saturday. Today's Wednesday. I prefer it if it got here before then. Not that I'm gonna read them right away because I have like a bunch of books I still need to read. This whole bottom shelf here are books that I haven't read yet. And then, hi, so it's literally almost midnight on Wednesday and I finished The Black Kids, so I'm reading Anxious People now. I'll tell you more about my thoughts on Black Kids and like more details on Anxious People tomorrow. But while it's fresh, I just wanted to tell you that this book has some stellar quotes in it. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I'm mostly enjoying it because it's written in such a different kind of way than I've ever read before. Like the narrator is talking directly to me, like directly to the reader. And he just has these stellar quotes. I just posted one on my Insta story and it was such like a good burn. And the narrator is like bashing like 20-year-olds because there's this one 20-year-old bank teller who was like this annoying, bratty 20-year-old woman. And he said, and those of us who aren't 20 can probably agree that most 20-year-olds are wrong so often that most of them would have just a 1 in 4 chance of answering a yes or no question correctly. That's hilarious. I'm not saying that's right, but that's like such a good burn. I mean, I'm in my 20s. I don't necessarily think that's true, but it's just such a good burn. I'm gonna have to use that. And then there's some other deeper quotes. It's going a little bit into the bank robber's history and how his wife cheated on him with his boss. So basically one day he was homeless and without a job because his wife basically kicked him out of the house, and his boss was like, this is gonna be awkward for us, so maybe you shouldn't work here, and fired him. Like that's sad. So the author's talking at me as the reader about love and like marriage and things like that, and even like social media and how people kind of put on this show of like falsehoods on the internet. And he says this quote that I think I like literally was like had to stop and like read it out loud a couple times, but it goes, anyone can nurture a myth about their life if they have enough manure. So if the grass looks greener on the other side of the fence, that's probably because it's full of shit. I love that. So true. And then a little further down, talking about, you know, the promises you make when you get married, you know, he's like, quote, love one another until death do us part, end quote. Isn't that what we said? Isn't that what we promised each other? Or am I remembering wrong? Quote, or at least until one of us gets bored, end quote. Maybe that was it. That's so sad and like so spot on for so many people when it comes to like marriages ending. Yeah, so far the book is pretty interesting. I really enjoy the way the narrator is telling the story and how he's kind of funny and like snippy and opinionated. I just haven't read something in this kind of format. I am really enjoying it. We'll see how the story continues. I'm on page 57. Good morning, it is Thursday. I finished The Black Kids yesterday. Overall, I enjoyed the book. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, though I think maybe I feel like 3.5 in reality, but that's only because I don't really like YA that much. I thought the ending was a good way to conclude the story on an emotional level. I don't want to give away what the emotion is because I don't want to spoil the book for you. So I wrote on Goodreads, overall a good book, a fairly light read considering the topic of race and injustice, which is understandable since it is YA. I personally wanted less of the high school day-to-day aspects of the story and more of the hard topics this book discusses, which is accurate. I mean, it's funny, every time I read my own reviews, I'm like, yeah, that's so true. It's like, no shit, I think it's true because I wrote it. But yeah, I stand by what I said yesterday. Honestly, some of the conflicts that came up in the story, I thought, like, when I first started encountering the situation, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be horrible, like, this poor character, it's gonna, like, wreck them. But, like, the way the story is written, it kind of gets resolved in a light manner. Like, they could have, like, wrecked me by how they created the situation and, like, wrote the situation. But it was just like a lighter read, so it didn't like wreck me, and I think that's just because it's YA. So it's definitely a book that is I don't know what a good word for is, but like approachable for teens to read. Overall, I think this book is a good option for teens to read because discussing important things like race and injustice, but done in a fairly light way so as not to dive into like the gory details of the horribleness that is the world sometimes. So it's more of a good introduction to educating young people on these topics, maybe. Could be a way to look at this. I updated you a bit last night on how I was doing with anxious people. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to continue reading it today and I'll update you on my progress later. Hi, it's later in the day. I just got back from a run. I ran 4.12 miles and I checked my mail and I got this in the mail. Yeah, so it says official mail-in ballot enclosed. General election voters. So for my county, the governor signed some kind of order that all active registered voters get a mail-in ballot for the general election, which is great and convenient considering COVID and everything. I don't even have to think about this. This is an easy choice for me. I don't want to repeat what we've already experienced this past 4 years. I have nothing against Republicans, but I am totally at a loss to understand people who support Trump. I haven't read any more of Anxious People yet, but I'm going to shower and sit my booty on the couch and read some more. I've noticed that this book takes a lot more concentration to read, so I can't really like listen to music or have the TV on in the background because you really gotta kind of pay attention. Hi, it's Friday. I'm packing to go visit my parents for the weekend. I'm writing up a list, things that I need to pack. You can't see it because the lighting, whatever. I'm watching some YouTube, bookish content, and I'm drinking a glass of white wine. So that's fun. My dad's gonna come pick me up in the morning, so I need to have everything packed tonight. I'm at my parents' place. It's Sunday. I did some reading on Saturday, but I didn't vlog at all. I'm about halfway through Anxious People. I'm really enjoying it. The way that the characters in the story, how they intertwine, like their lives have touched, is really amusing and a lot of the times ridiculous. And I think I said it already, but the characters are caricatures of human beings. So they're just very like over-exaggerated, vibrantly colorful, like, but it's a fun time. I'm enjoying the book a lot. I think right now, like, I think I would rate it a 5-star, but I'm curious to see how the plot continues. But yeah, it's looking really positive to be a 5-star book. Also, this is my parents' cat. Her name is Eloise, and she's so precious. I've only met her a couple of times because I haven't been able to come back home because of COVID and all that. But she seems to be warming up to me. I mean, she is sleeping on my pajama shirt right now. So I think that means something. And she was purring, which I feel honored that she will purr in my presence. Hi, it's Tuesday night. I just finished reading Anxious People. My reading plans didn't go as quickly as I hoped, but I'm home visiting my parents, so I'm not going to be upset because I'm spending decent quality time with them, which is very important. But I really loved this book. The way it wrapped up was well done. The other night, I was laying in bed reading it, and I was literally shocked out of my mind about something that had happened in the book, and I had to flip back to like the earlier pages to be like, how could I have missed this? How did the author trick me? How did the author, who calls all of the characters idiots and that everyone, you know, can be an idiot, make me an idiot? But it was fun. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. Definitely gonna give it 5 stars. Loved it. Would highly recommend, but I don't know if this book is for everyone. I just want whoever reads it to really, really love it, but it might not be to everybody's taste because it's a little quirky and, like I said before, a bit of a caricature of the people at times, or at least it makes you think it is. But at the core of the book, I think it's really about relationships, and not necessarily like romantic relationships. Like I love a good romance book, but it wasn't about that in this book, but I still really loved it. It's just about the kinds of relationships you can have as a human on this earth, doing your best to get through every day. And it was great. It was really, really, really good. Maybe give this book a try. And just, I really, really hope you love it as much as I do. So I'm gonna wrap up this reading vlog here. If you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe down below if you want to see more videos from me, and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified every time I post. I'll catch you in another video.